Good morning, everybody. I'm Tim Goncharoff, President of the National Stewardship Action Council. Thank you for joining us. We're going to start in just a minute. We still have people signing on. If you hadn't seen the notice, this meeting is being recorded, so please be aware of that. We have a very exciting lineup of speakers for you this morning. I can't wait to hear what they all have to share. We are going to try to save time at the end for questions. So if questions come up during the presentation, please just type them into the chat box and we will get to as many of them as we can at the end. And we'll also provide contact information for all of the speakers in case you need to follow up separately. Just another minute. Thank you for your patience. It's now 10 o'clock straight up, so we're doing okay on time. Good morning to those of you who are just now joining us. This is Revolutionizing Recycling Innovations for a Circular Economy, being presented by the National Stewardship Action Council and the Stewardship Action Foundation. We appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning. We'll be getting started in just a moment. Thank you for your patience. See lots of people signing on. If you're just now connecting, you haven't missed anything yet. We're giving it a minute to get started. Thank you for being with us. And Victoria, maybe you can let me know when we're ready to go.
I just want to double check you can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can. I can.
Great. Let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. If you're just signing on, I'm Tim Goncharoff, President of the National Stewardship Action Council. The Council is presenting today's program along with the Stewardship Action Foundation, about more of which in just a minute. Welcome to Revolutionizing Recycling, Innovations for a Circular Economy. We have a very exciting lineup of speakers for you today. I can't wait to hear what they all have to say. Joining us are Judy Moon from Digimarc, Peter Dahiv from Pillumina, Jeff Gloyd from BinIt, and Nicole Toole from ECO, each of which are doing exciting work in slightly different areas of extended producer responsibility and the circular economy. We're going to have time at the end for questions. Please type any questions into the chat, and we'll get to as many of them as we can at the end of the presentations. Next slide, please. The National Stewardship Action Council is a nonprofit organization composed of government, non-government organizations, businesses, and consumers who advocate that producers fairly share responsibility in an equitable circular economy. Our vision is that the U.S. attains an equitable circular economy. Our partner organization is the Stewardship Action Foundation, which is our affiliated 501c3 established to do education and outreach in a way that aligns with NSAC's advocacy work. If you're familiar with the details of nonprofit, you'll understand why we need to do both. If not, feel free to ask us about that. Next slide, please. This is the board of the Stewardship Action Foundation and of the National Stewardship Action Council, of which I am the president. You can see we have a very exciting, dynamic, and diverse board. And we are really excited and pleased to have the support of so many wonderful people, some of whom I'm sure you know. Next slide, please. Next slide, Victoria. Here we go. Okay, there's the NSAC board. If you're not familiar with NSAC, that's how we refer to the Stewardship Action Council in shorthand. You'll hear that a lot. Next slide, please. And we want to offer a special thank you to all of our sponsors, without whom none of this work would be possible. This is a nonprofit organization. We make no money for our advocacy efforts, and we are really dependent on the support of sponsors. If this is something that interests you or your organization, please let us know. We'd love to talk to you about it. And again, thank you to all of those who have been supporting our work so far. Next slide, please. This is the simplified version of our vision. Oops, we went backwards. Next slide. Everybody knows that nature is circular. That's how the world works. But humans have interrupted a naturally zero waste system and created one instead that is very wasteful. Next slide. That is why we are all in this industry, which, as everybody knows, is not working nearly as well as we would like it to. And out of that conundrum grew the notion of a circular economy, which is based on three principles: designing out waste and pollution from the beginning, keeping products and materials in use rather than throwing them away, and regenerating natural systems rather than degrading them with pollution and waste. The system that we're all enmeshed in now is decoupling economic activity from the consumption of finite resources. We want to bring those that supports and protects the natural environment. Next slide, Victoria. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go on to our speakers. I will be back with you in a little bit. And I'm going to ask each of the speakers to just briefly introduce themselves before doing their presentation. We're going to start with Judy Moon from Digimarc Recycle. Thank you so much for being here with us, Judy.
Thank you so much, Tim. Hi, everyone. It's great to be with all of you today. Happy Juneteenth Day. Thank you to the National Stewardship Action Council and the Stewardship Action Foundation for this invitation to be part of this webinar. I'm really delighted to be part of this panel on a really important topic, revolutionizing recycling to drive circular economy. And thankful for the opportunity to tell you more about Digimarc's recycling solution and how we can help solve a very big problem. Next slide. So maybe first a bit about me and a few words about Digimarc before we get to the recycling solution. So I'm Vice President of Market Development and Strategic Sales. And I am focused on driving new market opportunities for our technology. I have over 25 years of professional experience, all in customer-facing roles across multiple industries. And for the last decade, I've been working in the tech industry at several startups and now at Digimarc, which is a public company listed on the NASDAQ with incredible technology and set of solutions that can help solve a variety of complex problems for both the public and private sectors. One of my prime areas of focus, and for me personally, one that I find most rewarding, is our recycling solution, which is called Digimarc Recycle. And Digimarc Recycle can help significantly improve the rate of recycling and drive circularity for consumer goods and other industries that manufacture products that are eventually thrown away. And we work with a variety of products, but today I wanted to focus mostly on plastics recycling. I attend a lot of different events and listen to speakers talk about the need for solutions. And in some cases, people say there aren't solutions to solve this massive problem. But I'm here today to tell you that there is a solution that's been tested and ready to scale. Digimarc Recycle uses the same technology that has been used and proven by major global entities, both private and public. The tech has been rigorously tested and it's ready to be deployed across different markets across the globe. A little bit about Digimarc's background. For nearly 30 years, Digimarc has been the pioneer and global leader in digital watermarking technology. And our technology is used for the identification and authentication of products, both physical and digital assets, from pharmaceuticals, consumer goods, even global banknotes. That's actually how we got started 30 years ago, working with a consortium of global banks, security solutions, plastics products, and as I mentioned, digital assets as well. Next slide. So I don't think I need to tell this audience that we have a massive problem, but what exactly is the problem we're trying to solve? We're trying to help solve the problem of sortation for recycling. Only 5 to 9% plastics are fully recycled in the US, meaning that most plastics are discarded as waste. They're either burned or they end up in our bodies of water. There's microplastics that are ending up in our bodies and creating lots of health issues. I think probably most people here know that this is a serious problem. According to a recent UN report, we produce about 400 million tons of plastic pollution every year worldwide, and about 51 tons of that is generated in the US alone. And the cause for these low numbers is because plastic products often contain multiple plastic variants, which are not labeled. And there's no easy way to optically determine plastic composition or grade, making plastic really difficult to sort at end of life. And because of this, plastic commingling occurs, combining food and skin grade plastics with industrial use plastic types, which can often contaminate use specific plastics and make them ineligible for recycled use. And this, of course, makes it difficult for producers to purchase recycled plastics, and that specifically meets their production needs. And they instead often to purchase virgin plastics, which are at the moment cheaper than recycled plastics. And so this creates an ecosystem that disincentivizes the purchasing of recycled plastics, and incentivizes the use of virgin plastics in the production process, in part because we cannot provide function or use-specific plastic recyclate to be purchased. So, of course, this compounds a crisis we have, pouring more and more plastic waste into our ecosystem each year. And the numbers show that plastic production is only going to increase over time. Next slide. So we know what the problem is, and we've known about this problem for a while now, but really there is no time to waste, and we must act now without delay. And one of the primary reasons for this, besides the fact that, it's good for the planet and we are having a climate change issue, but regulation is going to help drive the need. Regulation is here. So the adoption of EPR laws globally and various sustainability regulations such as PPWR and DPP in Europe and others sure to come. And so regulation is going to drive the need and demand. There's also, of course, the UN Plastics Treaty, hopefully, which will be signed by the end of this year. And there's increasing pressure from consumers and corporate stakeholders to be more sustainable and to be responsible businesses. And as I said earlier, the good news is that there is a proven, affordable, and accessible solution right now. Next slide. So just to give you a little bit of context as to how Digimarc got into plastics recycling. So Digimarc Recycle was developed first in response to the Holy Grail project that was initiated by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation in 2019. They were really searching for technology solutions that could help solve the plastics recycling problem. They evaluated a number of different technology solutions and selected Digimarc's digital watermarks as the most promising solution to help solve this problem. And then the project moved into what is called Holy Grail 2.0. And this initiative was driven by the European Brand Association with support by the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. And it's a project with the objective to prove the technical viability of digital watermarks for accurate sorting of packaging waste, as well as the economic viability of the business case at large scale. So what are digital watermarks? So digital watermarks are imperceptible codes, the size of a postage stamp, covering the surface of consumer goods or other types of products, like construction material as well. And they carry a wide range of attributes. And when these products then have been enhanced with the digital watermarks on the product or even into the mold of the plastic itself, and they enter the waste sorting facility, the watermarks can be detected and decoded by a high-resolution camera on the sorting line, which then, based on the different attributes that it's reading, this data sits in our platform and it links to the digital watermarks. The machines are able to more accurately sort the waste into the proper bins or containers. And so this would result in a better and more accurate sorting stream, which would then, of course, result in a higher quality and quantity of recycled material. Next slide. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how this all works. So there are two sort of main steps. The first step is the embedding of the digital watermarks. So the watermarks are embedded into the product packaging or in the 3D mold. And the way it works with the product packaging is that we actually enhance the design of the packaging that gets printed onto the products. No special process is needed. Special embedding tools are given to the pre-press partners for the brands or retailers. And the watermarks just simply get embedded into the existing artwork. And there's no special or separate printing that needs to happen. The watermarks get printed along with the rest of the packaging design. And because the watermarks are imperceptible covert codes, they can be applied to a broad surface area of the product or product packaging and not interfere with the design, which of course is a big deal to brands and brand retailers. And so this is super important, right? Having that broad coverage, because when these products end up at the recycled facilities, they could be crushed, dirtied, mangled, and whatever other types of shape they get to a recycling facility. And so being able to cover a broad area that can be where the machines can detect the watermarks is really important versus, codes like 2D matrix or QR codes or any kind of covert code that can be, covered or ripped off or, difficult for the machines to detect. And so the digital watermarks carry a code, a digital ID, that links it to our Illuminate platform. And the importance of that is the platform then can also ingest any amount of data about those products. And it could be, what is the plastic composition, the plastic grade, who was the manufacturer, what SKU is it, product names, manufacturing location, and any other information that the brand owner or the retailer would like to include. So all of that data is hosted in our Illuminate platform, and that digital watermark links that particular product to this data in order for the detection software to be able to identify properly what type of waste they're trying to sort. So then the second part of how this works is the detection piece of it. So when the detection is the process of discovering the digital watermarks on the intake conveyor belt of a sortation machine, and all the information or the data that's attached to it. So we have a detection software that can be embedded into a module that sits on top of the intake sortation belt. And there is a high resolution camera that detects and decodes the digital watermarks. And it connects to that data that would then identify what type of plastic it is trying to sort. And to show you kind of how this works, we are going to play a short video. Next slide, please. Oh, I think it's the wrong video. It's the link to the video is on the slide. It's the machine that's doing it right there. Oops.
Wait, I'm sorry, is that not the right video?
You may have to go through the video that's, maybe it's part of this one, but the one that's embedded into the slide, it looks like it won't play as is. When you clicked on that link, did it go to the YouTube link? Maybe we could try that. We just need to get through the short few seconds.
That was the link that it sent, that it goes to, is this video.
Okay. If you could just scroll through the bottom there and see where the actual, that image that you see on the slide, if we can get to the part where the machine's actually doing the detection as the products pass by. Yeah, there it is. You know what? We can play kind of midway. You can sort of see a little bit more than what I had anticipated.
Okay.
So, thanks. Yeah, you can kind of see the whole process then. I was just going to show you a snippet, but yeah, we can play this. So that module I was talking about is that Palanque module that's sitting on top of the conveyor belt. That's got the high resolution camera and the software that's detecting the watermarks as they pass by. And then they're being sorted into the correct bins. And this is a deterministic process because they know exactly which SKU it's reading and what the material composition is. And you can see that there are different types of products that have been tested. Okay, I think we could probably stop now. Great. So this video is from the Holy Grail 2.0 semi-industrial test that took place in Copenhagen a few years ago. And we achieved an average detection rate of 99%, which I think is phenomenal results. And the results clearly demonstrate that the tech performs exceptionally well across all tested categories of plastics materials in conditions representing routine industrial operations. They've even simulated harsher conditions with the higher speed belts and severe soiling and crushing of some of the products. And the results were just really terrific. Next slide, please. So I think in the interest of time, I'm going to just quickly run through this. So this is just giving a high-level overview of how this process works. But what implementing the digital watermarks in the recycling sector could mean is, we can help with EPR programs as part of an overhaul of recycling systems. We can also, the digital watermarking as a tool can be used to in pursuit of extended producer responsibility that are helping on multiple fronts, such as allow for use specific composition, specific grade specific, or manufacturing specific sortation data. This in turn increases the specificity of the recycled plastic that can be sold back to producers in lieu of virgin plastics. And the more recycled plastic that can be used, not only creates closed circuit recycling programs, but simultaneously diminishes the amount of virgin plastics entering the market each year. The other really important thing I want to mention is that the platform, in addition to being able to ingest the data for the detection part of this, it also collects data as those products are being detected. So the platform can generate data that shows which SKUs, which products, which location, which manufacturer, right? All kinds of granular recycling data that can be used by multiple stakeholders, including, PROs, by the brand owners or retailers themselves, or any other entity that's interested in looking at this data for a number of different reasons. And so that is sort of on a high level how this process works. Next slide, please. And as I said, this has been tested, not just for recycling, but we work with major public and private companies. We have a long history of deploying programs at scale. And we are ready to partner with relevant stakeholders to make this happen. And we're ready to move as soon as people are interested in helping to make this happen with us. And that is it for me. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Judy. That was just fascinating. I think all of us who have struggled to identify mystery materials on the sorting line can appreciate what a breakthrough this is. So good for you and your company. We look forward to hearing more. Thanks to those of you who have been putting questions in the chat box. We're going to get to as many of those as we can after the presentation, so please keep the questions coming. And now we're going to turn to our next speaker, Peter Dahib from Pillumina. Peter, thank you for joining us today, and please tell us a little about you and Pillumina.
No, thank you, Tim, and thank you, Victoria, and really appreciate the opportunity to meet with you all today and to present more about Pillumina and the mission that we're on. Also really just appreciate the support that we continue to get from the NSAC and Heidi and her team over the last couple of years as we've really launched the company and are starting to actually bring our product and solutions to market. And it's also a great honor to be presenting with a lot of these other climate champions that have been doing this a lot longer than us, but we're happy to join the team and be a part of, the force that's helping to drive change that, positively impacts our environments and communities. So as I mentioned, Pillumina, we're fairly new. We launched the company about a couple of years ago, and I'll tell you more about, our mission and what we're looking to do. But how we got here is we were actually involved with another company that launched about 7 to 8 years ago. And their mission was similar to ours, or where we kind of started our mission in terms of, how do we eliminate single-use plastic waste? And that company was focused more on the plastic water bottles. So we learned a lot working with that company. A lot of my background throughout my career over the past 20 years is working with startups here in the Silicon Valley. A lot of them hyper growth, bringing new technologies and solutions to businesses. So a lot of my background in working with that company, now Pillumina, has really helped me look at, where are opportunities where we can make change, whether that's through technology or through products and solutions. Next slide. And Veronica, I didn't have it in the slide, but if possible, could I share just for 2 minutes and play a video on my end? Am I able to share?
Absolutely.
Great. Give me 1 sec. So this is just a quick video that provides an introduction to Pillumina.
Plastic prescription pill bottles annually, enough to wrap around the earth 13 times. Shockingly, only 3% of these bottles are recycled, highlighting a failing system. When you toss your plastic pill bottles into the recycling bin, they eventually land at the local waste management facility. Typically, they're not captured by the automated sorting equipment and end up in the trash sent to landfill, posing a threat to both marine and human life. Just because it's recyclable doesn't mean it's recycled. Introducing Pillumina, the first truly sustainable pill bottle. Aluminum pill bottles, when recycled, pass through electromagnetic currents, separating them for collection and sale to downstream providers, where they're melted and cast into solid form. Aluminum is considered a permanent material and has an infinite recycling rate without losing quality. Let's embrace the future of pharmacy. Support a healthier planet by making greener choices. Stand out as an eco-conscious business. Meet the rising demand for sustainable packaging and elevate your brand.
Thank you, Victoria.
The U.S.
Let me just stop sharing. Thank you. If we could have the slides again, please. So I think, our conversation is timed well after Judy's conversation. I mean, she's obviously recognized a lot of the same issues that we've identified with what actually happens with plastic prescription bottles when they enter our waste management facility. I think Digimarc and what they're doing with the coding is going to really help with that. But what we learned is, even with some of the information that she provided, when it comes to healthcare and prescription medication, the pill bottles, primarily polypropylene, we are seeing even lower recycle rates than what we see across just kind of standard plastic recycling. So our mission and what we've done is we've set out to reinvent the pill bottle. It's something that hasn't changed in about 5 decades. And we do view ourselves as a disruptive technology. So when you think about our transition from fossil fuels to electric, plastic to paper or other compostable materials, electric to solar, we're starting to see a whole new area of products that are in more sustainable, recyclable, environmentally friendly packaging, and looking for opportunities to transition away from plastic, which is what we've set out to do with Pillumina. Next slide, please. So we touched on this a little bit in the explainer video. And, when we first set out to understand, A, is there a problem? And B, is there anything being done about it today? We really started to understand just the size of the amount of waste within the healthcare industry. And so what we're seeing here on the right, and we start with specifically within prescription medication bottles. And, our bottles support the broader supplements, vitamins, nutraceuticals market. We wanted to start where we feel we can have an immediate impact and change, and that's going after the pharmacies and the prescription medications. And the information now is actually closer to 3 billion a year in terms of prescriptions filled in the US, and the majority are in those polypropylene bottles that even have a lower recycle rate than what we've seen in Judy's presentation. And just the rest of the information just kind of drills into the waste that we see within healthcare. And we know there are different solutions that are being focused on, but we felt, A, there's not much being done within the plastic pill bottle space. And we thought that'd be a great way to come up with a solution that could have a very quick impact and kind of have a simple one-to-one switch from what's being used today. And a lot of these other stats we all are familiar with. And I think we hear this one all the time, that by 2050, there's going to be more plastic than marine life in the ocean. And then as we saw in the video, every year, just given the volume of plastic waste created by the prescription bottles, it can wrap around the earth 13 times. When you kind of think about it from that perspective, it's kind of hard to get your mind around that sheer number of bottles, but that's what it adds up to. Next slide, please. So I've already shared with you a little bit about our vision and mission. We want to join the fight. We want to do our part. We feel we have a very innovative solution that's disrupting and changing an industry that's going to have a significant impact on the plastic waste that we're seeing today. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we started to look at the problem and then understand, is there actually anything being done about it today? And we look at our pharmacy population across the country. our independents. So that's, someone that has a local independent or maybe a few pharmacies within a neighborhood or city. They really account for about a third of all pharmacies in the US. And then you have the large retail pharmacies, so your CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, etc. Now, when you look at the large retail pharmacies, what's interesting is they have very comprehensive, well-defined ESG programs. They have already set on a mission, have defined hard targets by year for how they want to increase recyclability, reduce plastic waste, reduce carbon footprint. So they are already investing in making change, and they have these programs that they post on their websites, and they hold themselves accountable to those programs. What's often overlooked is what's happening within the pharmacy operation. So we feel that our solution is just a natural extension of what their focus is today from a sustainability program perspective. And those conversations are happening today, thankfully. And then with the independent pharmacies, what we've learned is they're looking for opportunities to have more of a sustainability focus and have sustainability programs. And so when we talk to independent pharmacies, they feel like, hey, our bottle is a quick win for them, because now they can help differentiate what they're doing from a business and branding perspective using our bottle, but it also helps them establish the start of an ESG program, because they're looking for ways to become more environmentally socially responsible and have these programs in place. Next slide, please. So I think we all know a little bit about aluminum, but it's been around for a long time. And why did we choose aluminum? Right, aluminum is infinitely recyclable and it's environmentally friendly. There's a wide range of food and beverage products that we all consume on a daily basis that come in aluminum, and we all know the high recyclability around aluminum. There's recycling centers. And compared to plastic, aluminum is recycled at 20 times the rate of plastic. Aluminum production has been around for a very, very long time. It's a closed loop life cycle and circular economy. When we take our aluminum products, whether it's our bottles or cans or whatever it is, we know what happens within the waste management facilities. As we've shown in the video, it runs through the equipment, it is separated, and it goes downstream. It's purchased for those waste management facilities, and then turns into new aluminum packaging and re-enters our whole packaging ecosystem. And what's interesting is about 75% of all aluminum ever manufactured in the history of the US since the beginning of aluminum manufacturing is still in use today. So when we talk about a closed loop life cycle and circular economy, you don't get much closer to that than with aluminum. So this is just a little bit about the products that we are first going to market with. And we do have some larger sizes that we have available as well. So what we try to do is really focus on how can we make it as easy as possible for pharmacies to change. And so we have the standard pharmacy sizes. We have, and I see there's a question about caps that we can talk more about here at the end of the presentations. Our bottles have been tested, so they do meet both the USP standards as well as FDA standards. And we have the standard sizes that, ideally within a pharmacy operation setting, all they're doing is taking one plastic bottle, replacing it with a aluminum bottle. It fits and follows the same filling processes, labeling processes, all the pharmacy operation processes that pharmacies go through today. Next slide. So these are actual pictures of our bottles and the different sizes. I think another benefit of our product is we can do it in any color. It offers an opportunity for pharmacy branding and differentiation. We're talking to large national organizations that really see value in this. We're also talking to healthcare systems and hospitals that think they can use different kind of bottles for different kind of prescriptions. It's like maybe we use a blue for prescriptions within a hospital setting that go out at night versus yellow for the day, or other types of medications for other different kinds of schedules. So it does bring a new type of flexibility in with the branding, the different colors for how pharmacies want to use colors to maybe help with understanding like which prescriptions would go in which bottles based off colors. And that one picture on the top right, you can see that's just a standard CVS prescription bottle. and our orange bottle. And in this picture, what you're seeing is our aluminum-based child-resistant cap. So not only are we focused on the bottle, and I didn't see a picture about the question about the cap, we are focused on a 100% recyclable solution. So we are in the R&D phase of bringing a fully aluminum-based solution, and that includes the first and only aluminum child-resistant cap to market here, hopefully by the end of this year, early next year. So a little bit more on the caps. When it comes to the caps, we want to be in the bottle business, and then when we bring in our aluminum child-resistant cap, that's what we're going to focus on. We designed the bottle to work with any standard 38400 cap. So a lot of pharmacies already have a preference in their cap. Today, unfortunately, the majority of them are plastic. That's just the nature of how child-resistant caps are designed, which is why we wanted to come up with a different solution. We feel that we're addressing 80 to 90% of the problem with the bottle, and then we're also working on a solution with caps. So what you see here on the bottom left is just your standard push and turn cap. We do have companies that don't need a child-resistant cap. So when we're working with inpatient hospitals, or if someone, like let's say elderly folk, they opt out of their having a CRC, we just have a regular aluminum twist on option as well, which then provides a fully recyclable solution. Next slide. So I know Judy talked a little bit about the timing of all of this. If we were trying to start this like 20 years ago, I don't think we would have the momentum, the technology, the support, and the excitement that we're seeing today with Pillumina. We're all very familiar with SB 54 and the work that the NSAC has done to help enact a law here in California, which is what we're seeing here on the left. And then really across the country and across the world, we're really starting to see legislation to drive change that's really focused on the plastic production and plastic packaging. So we feel that the legislation is starting to support our cause. And then the other thing to consider, next slide, please, Victoria, is that there's a general mindset and shift towards consumer sustainability. So I won't get into all the stats and details here, but over the last 10 years, and this is global, consumers are looking for products and more sustainable packaging. There is a certain price tolerance for that as well, and it goes into their buying decision. So not only are we driving this from a legislation perspective, not only is the world and the US and states like California becoming very environmentally conscious and are thinking about products and packaging that goes into their purchasing decisions. This all creates like the perfect opportunity and time for a product like Pillumina and to get the level of support and interest that we're getting today, not only from the pharmacy community, but also from patients who are now actively asking their pharmacists, and they hear about us, they tell them about us, and they're asking, why aren't they using Pillumina bottles, and when can they make that change? Next slide. So just a quick recap, promoting the growth of the circular economy. We're really helping accelerate environmental and corporate social responsibility benefits with ESG programs in place today. We're accelerating pharmacy and pharmaceutical sustainability programs. We're tested and certified to meet all requirements. And honestly, not much has changed in pharmacy from a packaging perspective. There are new pill packs and things like that, but those are still not the broad distribution method for packaging when it comes to prescriptions. So we view that we're really bringing something new that hasn't changed in over 50 years. And then finally, some of the organizations that I know we saw on Victoria and Tim's slide, the NSAC and our local California chapter have been strong advocates, Stop Waste, and we're also meeting with and trying to establish programs with like closed loop partners, EPA, the US Plastics. We've had really successful meetings, and we're really focused on how can we better partner with them and join programs that can help support some of the initiatives that they're focused on. Great. That's all I have, and really appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Peter. That was just fascinating. here at NSAC, we've been very involved with the development of programs for collecting and disposing of leftover medications. And the containers have been a real headache, as most people are aware. So this looks like a really brilliant solution. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Great, thanks, Tim.
Okay, moving on. We are we going to do Nicole next? Okay, I'm assuming so. Okay, we have Nicole Toole with ECO. And Nicole, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and ECO and what you're up to?
Sure. Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you so much, Victoria, and Heidi for putting this incredible initiative and event together. My name is Nicole. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ECO. And so we've done a lot of discussions about packaging as well as recovering materials at the material recovery facilities. And so ECO is a consumer-focused solution to help consumers actually make the right decisions so that we can see increased content within streams. So that's what I'm here to speak with you all about today. Next slide. So to give you some more background on me, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised in the South. But I spent a lot of time working alongside the Recycling Partnership and Cascadia Consulting, researching student and consumer behaviors around recycling. So a lot of my research has gone into figuring out why people don't recycle and compost, and how can we actually get them to shift that behavior so that we can see more materials within our streams. And so also, I'm a huge foodie and a plant mom to many, many plants that I will not go into detail because then we will be here for another hour. So next slide. So as I mentioned before, I've done a lot of research trying to understand what people's perceptions and behaviors are with recycling. And so in those conversations, the main question I always get is, well, I just don't know if I can recycle this packaging or this item or this material. The rules are different at my house versus at my office versus at my university. So can I recycle this item? And so what we're finding is that there's millions of different types of packaging that are on the market. And there's a lot of different rules based on location. Next slide. And so with all this complexity, the current recycling education tactics just don't fully help consumers where they're at. So whether that be signage and flyers, tablings, webinars like this one, social media, or even waste audits, they still don't answer that question. And so we wanted to bridge the gap between the fact that there's a million different types of packaging, millions of rules, and how can we make it simple and easy for consumers to do the right thing. Next slide. So that's what led to the development of ECO. ECO is a zero waste platform that helps to educate and engage residents on recycling and composting. So we have our mobile application that uses AI to detect the recyclability and compostability of materials. So you can literally take a picture of anything and we'll detect what that item is, and then we'll surface back the local guidelines within your locality. Where those guidelines are managed is on our dashboard, which I'll go into a little bit further into the presentation. And that is actually where coordinators are able to manage the guidelines over their locality so that constituents always have the correct guidelines at their fingertips. Next slide. So the mobile app works, as I mentioned before, you snap a picture of pretty much anything. We'll detect what the item is, if it's recyclable or compostable based on your location, and then where you can actually take those materials. Then we also engage our users by rewarding points for every recyclable or compostable item. And they can use these points for rewards as well as to compete with other people within the community, within their locality, or even within their friend groups. And so that's really where we see a lot of engagement because people can be competitive and they also like to redeem rewards as well. Next slide. The mobile application connects to our admin dashboard. So I think there might be a slide on this in the next one, but essentially how our technology, go back. Go back one. Oh,
I'm so sorry. 1 second.
no worries. Intermission. Good.
Talk amongst yourselves. We'll be right with you. Here we go.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Sorry for the confusion, Victoria. But yes, so the admin dashboard is what connects to the platform. So how our technology works as far as surfacing location-specific guidelines, what we do is we create a geofence around each campus that launches. So that is like a virtual boundary around your locality, around your university, around your municipality. And then your team is able to add the guidelines over that geofence. So you can literally create whatever guidelines are applicable for your program. You can make changes to these guidelines at any time, and it automatically updates on the app. So whenever someone steps within your locality, they will always have the correct guidelines at their fingertips. And so as your constituents begin to dispose of waste through the platform, we'll surface back all of this to you. And so you'll be able to see all the data that's coming through your stream in real time. So we can help answer questions like, what's the most recycled item? What items are people confused about? And where is that confusion happening within my locality? Things like that can be really helpful. And then lastly, you can also customize your own rewards program. Next slide. So I've talked a little about the geofencing technology. So how ECO really works is we have that geofence around each campus, which allows for anyone at any point in time to use and receive your correct rules and guidelines, as long as they are within your campus. And so because we're using artificial intelligence to detect the material, our models are actually improving every time a user takes a picture on the platform. So we become very knowledgeable of the waste that's coming through your stream, which can help you just understand what's coming through your stream, but also just improves the experience for the users as well. And then lastly, sustainability teams are able to fully digitize their programs through our dashboard. So any changes that you want to make will automatically update on the app for all of your constituents. Next slide. So setup is simple. You basically are able to set up your program rules on our dashboard. Your residents then recycle and earn rewards on ECO. And now you can save time and also relax knowing that your students, your residents have the correct rules at their fingertips. So you no longer have to spend so much time doing webinars or trying to gather people to read signage or flyers or do so many tablings. Instead, you can give your constituents a tool to really help them know what to do and also feel confident about it. Next slide. So I just wanted to go through a case study of what we've seen so far. So a lot of our work has been with university campuses. Over the last year and a half, we've launched to about 8 campuses in the US. And so these are some of the learnings that we've received from that. And so some of the main app drivers or some of the reasons why people use the platform is a lot of students use ECO to obtain basic necessities. So the rewards that universities are able to add are things like gift cards, discounts to restaurants. And so a lot of students will mention that this is a way for me to get groceries at the end of the week or to get transportation. And so we thought that a lot of students would want to do like boba tea or like pizza, but a lot of them were actually using it for transportation and groceries, which is really interesting. The second piece is competitions with friends and universities. So that was the second main driver. So we held competitions. We did a few competitions within housing departments between universities. So university versus university competitions. And whenever we did that, we saw 4 times the engagement on the platform. So there is also this like social pressure and like, okay, if my friends are on it, then I got to be on it. And I also want to compete. So that was also something that was interesting. And the last part is environmental impact. So there's a group of people, and I think everyone in this audience would fit into that area in which you just really care about making a positive impact within your community and in your environment, and wanting to be able to actually track how you can reduce your footprint and all of that. So Then secondly, we found that programs that have offered incentives see 3 times the engagement on the platform. So a lot of times that can be a really big driver to bring people in, is offering some type of incentive that they already want. And then they'll really become, once they start using the platform, or once you, like if you're tabling, for example, and you want to give someone a gift card to hear your spiel about recycling, that can just be a really great way to bring people in. And then lastly, 56% of students reported that they have increased the recycling from a monthly to weekly basis. So this was really huge for us because we wanted to see, okay, if we have someone on day one who knows nothing about recycling or doesn't really care, are we really able to change behavior? And so this study that we did really found that once you bring students in to the platform, they really started to see that behavior change over time. Next slide. So these are some of those impacts that we've seen in the waste stream. So it's wonderful that we've got people engaged, but what does that do for our stream? So this past year, we finished a full year with Georgia Tech, Georgia State University, and then we're about to launch University of California, Berkeley, which we're very excited about. And so thus far, we've helped students dispose over 50,000 items from the landfill. And we saw a 20% decrease in contamination on Georgia Institute of Technology's campus. And most notably at Georgia State, there was a 65% increase in recycling over that semester period, which was really incredible. Next slide. So this is digging into that contamination piece. So what you're seeing here is this is a map of the Georgia Institute of Technology's campus. And so the blue line is the geofence for that university. So anytime a student was within the boundary, they could recycle. When they were outside, they unfortunately could not. And so a green dot is basically a session that started. So that's a student that pulled out the app and started taking pictures of their waste. And so what we did is we were able to figure out, okay, let's do audits in the high engaged areas and compare that to the low engaged. So in the northeast of this map, near that US 19, US 41, Georgia 3, that was one of the freshman housings. And then we did another waste audit on the southeast side, or no, that's the northwest, and that is the southeast side. And so we saw a 20% decrease in contamination in both of those areas. So we really are starting to see that once adoption increases, that contamination does in fact decrease with time, which is really wonderful. Next slide. So I just want to leave you with one quote that we received from one of our students, Jaden, who is a junior at Georgia Tech. She said that she's more knowledgeable of certain plastics that cannot be recycled. And we all know how confusing plastic recycling can be. But now she is more aware of the few recycling stations near her campus housing. So this literally hit the nail on the head of what we're trying to accomplish. We want people to be more knowledgeable. We want people to be more confident so that they can make those right decisions. And so we're seeing that if we can make it easy, if we can make it fun, if we can make it engaging, then people aren't seeing it as like a rule book, but it's just something that they can better experience overall. So with that, next slide, would be happy to answer any questions. And I appreciate you, Tim and Victoria, for putting this all together.
Thank you so much, Nicole. That was just fascinating. You know, when I worked in local government recycling, one of our constant struggles was how to connect with younger people who may not consume traditional media. And I think you may have cracked the code. So well done. I look forward to hearing more about your progress.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to our last speaker. Jeff Lloyd from BinIt. Is Jeff with us?
I'm on.
Welcome, Jeff. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you'd please just tell us a little bit about yourself and your company and the exciting work that you're doing.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you, Tim, and Jordan, Victoria, and obviously Heidi for the invite. I do quite a few webinars, as we all probably do, over the years, and most of the time they're kind of ho-hum. This is actually one of the most enjoyable webinars, up until my speed, probably, to my presentation, but really outstanding stuff, and I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about the Visia platform by BinIt, and really what we're trying to do to upgrade the secondary material recovery, essentially recycling markets. And yeah, really, really interesting stuff with digital watermarks, and the aluminum bottles just seems so simple but so brilliant. And I think the order of this was good with Nicole and her AI app, and it directly feeds into what we're doing, which is also using machine learning and AI as well. Next slide, please, Victoria. As Tim said, my name is Jeff Gloyd. I'm the head of revenue for BinIt. Essentially, that means where can we put these the software and hardware to really make a difference in understanding visibility into feedstock in secondary markets, recycling centers. And the use cases, as you'll see at the end of the presentation, continue to grow. What we've seen, and this isn't going to surprise anybody on this call, and it's clear in the 20 plus years I've been in the waste and recycling industry running operations, that true visibility into what our customers or suppliers are providing us, whether we're a MRF, whether we're a landfill, whether we're an e-waste facility or a medical waste facility or a scrapyard, true visibility into what they're sending is oftentimes impossible. And we also know that what our customers and partners send us or say they're sending us, oftentimes it's not exactly what they're sending us. And some of those items that hit our tipping floors or our recycling boxes or our e-waste lines not only would be non-conforming, but can be potentially hazardous to staff, their health and wellness, and of course, the safety of facilities and vehicles themselves. It's ubiquitous in waste and recycling journals and newsletters now, but lithium-ion battery fires are ubiquitous, and they are a significant problem for every single secondary materials processor and recovery operation. And those specifically can cause harm to individuals, are causing significant problems and disruptions in insurance networks for facilities that are recyclers. If you've run a facility or know folks that have run facilities, rates have gone up 100-fold, and that's not an exaggeration. It's not 3 times, 10 times. It's like 100 times what they were 5-10 years ago. If carriers will even provide insurance. So understanding what material is hitting your tipping floor, and being able to deal with that material, understand waste compositions, can provide a lot of value. And I will say too that up until recently, the whole machine learning and AI progress has really skipped, in my opinion, the waste and recycling industry, right? If you look at how our facilities operate, they operate with the same equipment, the same manpower, essentially as they have for the last 30 or 40 years. Yes, there's some optical sorters. Yes, there's some cameras that can determine a PET bottle, and a robot arm that sometimes can grab that PET bottle. But if it can't see it, it won't know it's there. And opacity, things being buried under these other things, is a significant issue from a health and safety, and really a true understanding of what our facilities are receiving. Next slide, please. This is just a little extra on really what the problem is. And one of the things that often comes up when we're speaking with potential partners is the material composition varies by season, by region of the city, by region of the state, by region of the country. And to get a better understanding of that really will help drive business success and improve safety and improve uptime as well. Burden depth is probably the #1 problem that our solution solves for many of our customers. If you think about material coming into an e-scrap facility or into a MRF, These are running on belts that are fairly high speed, materials dumped on those belts, and it's difficult to get that material into a single kind of stacked format. So you'll have stuff on top of other stuff. You'll have things in bags. You can't see through bags with cameras or with your eyes. So how do you solve for non-conforming waste or hazards within the material composition when you just physically can't see it with a RBG camera or your physical eyes? Next slide, please. So what are we doing? We're combining hardware solutions that are essentially off-the-shelf cameras and X-ray units. You can see some photographs of units that we use, conveyor X-rays and whole truck X-rays, as well as just a standard, red, blue, green camera. And we combine that hardware with really, which is the key to the success of what we're providing, the machine learning software. And that's where we feel that we're unique in the market, the only true visibility company that's providing camera and X-ray solutions to secondary materials recovery operations to actually get an understanding of what material is on our belts and on our tipping floors, and then automating a response. So it's one thing to identify, hey, this is a battery containing device. There's an acetylene tank on the tipping floor. It's not supposed to be there. There's profiled waste in drums that's not supposed to be there. And it's another just to identify that. It's most important to provide action for staff to do something about that. And that's really where we differentiate ourselves in the market. It's being able to spot things, automate the responses, and then provide solid reporting and data. Next slide. I'm going quickly through these because we have some case studies that I want to discuss just to show you some of the current uses, and I'll share a little bit about other industries and other applications that we're growing into as well. As I mentioned when I started, that this started at waste energy facilities, went to e-scrap facilities and MRFs, but the use cases and the customer list continues to grow. Seemingly every conversation we have with a potential partner, they're bringing out other opportunities where vision into their products or their processes can help them with production and safety as well. So we're just continue to grow where this product and solution can be used. So combining the AI and automation is really key. So once you identify whatever we're trying to identify, waste composition, contamination on a belt, an embedded battery that could be hazardous, a propane tank, an acetylene tank, a tree trunk that shouldn't be on a tipping floor, what happens then? And we've been able to automate many of the responses. So for instance, software integrations, we can determine if there's a non-conforming material on a tipping floor at a waste energy plant. Using cameras and the AI, tie that to the actual customer that delivered that material, and then working with the ERP system. And it's a challenge. Everyone has a different ERP system, and it's difficult to connect APIs to those. But we've been able to figure it out and generate essentially auto invoices for non-conforming waste. So it takes the human error out of it. It takes the time out of it. The AI and software and camera systems are doing all the work. If it's a non-conforming item that needs to be removed, we've got an app that we essentially send push notifications to operators. So, I'm on a loader and I get a push notification say, "Hey, Jeff, check out Bay 14. It looks like there's a non-conforming material." I go to Bay 14, pick the material, then respond to that push notification and clear it. Also on PLC integrations, this is really a game changer for some of our partners, particularly in the e-scrap and MRF world. Again, the X-rays allow us to see through burden depth. So now we can see if remote control has a battery, we can determine what type of battery it is. We can see if there's ink and toner inside of a printer, or if the ink and toner have been removed. Well, what do you do next? Well, we've developed a laser that actually shines on the item as it leaves the X-ray on the belt, and it follows that item essentially until it's picked off by a staff person. Now, again, you still need to train your staff to follow safety protocols and to be vigilant on looking for hazards and whatever else you're trying to sort from your material. But gosh, it's helpful if there's a laser pointing at it saying, hey, this needs to be pulled off the belt and dealt with separately. So this combination, and then obviously looking at new use cases, again, differentiates us for our partners. Next slide, please. It's just a list of some of the customers that had mentioned that were really across all secondary materials processors, and even talking to scrap yards and landfills as well, about identifying both hazards and non-conforming waste, so they can take action as well. I don't have to read the comments on the left side of the screen. You can imagine that if you can remove hazards, you're going to have less downtime. You're going to have more production. You're going to have happier employees. You're going to have more productive employees. And we're seeing through some of the case studies, and you'll see some of the results here in the next few slides, that the system is tremendous at improving the operation of facilities, and we're still getting data back from some of them that are new implementations, but the numbers are always very, very positive as far as staff reductions or redeployment to more productive areas, uptime of facilities, lack of explosions or fires and shredders, and the list goes on and on. And what that means for the recycling industry is that they're doing it better, they're doing it safer, they're doing it faster, and more accurately, and more profitably as well, which then can be pushed back up to the consumer level, so that everyone wins. Next slide, please. All right, here's the fun part. We talk about some use cases. I'm sure everyone on this call has recycled electronics. Everyone on this call absolutely probably has 3 lithium-ion batteries on them right now: phones, AirPods, a wireless mouse, maybe more with your laptops, right? And that's not going to change. In fact, embedded batteries, particularly lithium-ion, is ubiquitous. I always joke somewhat that I can't buy my 8-year-old shoes that don't light up. Now, we're not talking about really recycling batteries in shoes. They shouldn't put batteries in shoes, but when you can't buy a pair of shoes for an 8-year-old that doesn't have a battery in it, then you know that batteries are ubiquitous in our consumer products. So, what do you do when you need to get rid of it? There's very strong recycling programs for e-waste in about half the country. We're still lagging behind in the other half, but those that do have large recycling operations struggle mightily with being able to quickly sort out battery-containing dense items like counterweights and, of course, ink and toner, which all can be explosion and fire hazards in e-scrap recycling shredder operations. This is a case study at Terra. I actually used to be the president of Terra and worked with BinIt at the time to design and implement the first X-ray unit, which you can see that's an actual photo of it. The e-waste runs through the X-ray. It identifies the hazards or anything else that the company wants to be able to remove or report on. Comes out the other end, and as I mentioned, a laser shines on the item that needs to be removed to be processed separately. You can see in the lower right-hand side, when I say an X-ray system, it looks very similar to what if you're looking over the TSA agent at the airport and you see them looking at your bag where the different colors represent different densities. And of course, they're not looking for batteries or e-waste. They're looking for other stuff, but it's essentially operating the exact same way. So it sees everything. It puts a density to it, a shape and size to it. We annotate those pictures, and so the next time an iPhone comes through with a lithium-ion battery, the system knows it's a lithium-ion battery, shines a laser at it so that it can be removed to be properly managed. You can see the impact significant. There are small fires, sometimes large fires at e-scrap shredders all of the time. Since they've implemented the Visia BinIt X-ray system, they've had 0 fire instances. So from a business perspective, from a safety perspective, production perspective, tremendous. Next slide, please. We don't just use the machine learning for hazard identification. Clearly, I said it's also waste composition, right? So these cameras and X-rays can see everything, and it's going to report, annotate basically what you decide you want to have it report on. C&D recyclers, some of you have, I'm sure, been involved with construction demolition recycling. Some customers require lead reporting. If you've ever dealt with that in the certification, it's kind of junk. I'll put it bluntly. There's a lot of guessing going on. You dump material on the ground, you have a couple people take pictures of it. You then have other people in an office kind of counting the amount of wood and concrete and drywall, et cetera, and then attach a percent to it. Other C&D operators say, oh, you need something for your lead report. They hand you a piece of paper, you fill it out yourself so that you meet your standards. Not real effective. Those standards are starting to tighten. So what we're seeing is a tremendous value for C&D operators on the lead reporting side. We install the cameras. We provide annotated machine learning. As you see in these pictures, it can see cardboard, it can see red bags, it can see drywall, it can see wood, different types of wood, and it's then using the customer's data, applies a percent to it, applies a weight to that material, and now you're kicking off accurate, defensible reports for your lead reporting. One of the benefits, obviously, of the software doing the work for you is these companies are typically able to redeploy or reduce their headcount by 2 FTEs. So over the course of a year, you're talking about a significant, at least $100,000 savings, plus you're getting accurate, defensible reports. Next slide, please. Another significant application is in MRFs. As you can imagine, whether it's a clean MRF or a dirty MRF, material is supposed to come in one way. It's never that way. It's always a little bit of everything. MRFs typically have a pre-sort area. If the material goes into the feed hopper and in-feed line, you've got staff that are trying to pick out certain items. Again, if things are buried, how do you see that there's a hazard if it's underneath cardboard or if it's inside of a non-opened bag? The X-ray system solves that, and we use the same laser pointer system to help operators determine that something is not conforming and it can be removed. There's also camera applications at MRFs where instead of having a staff person have to raise their hand if there's too much contamination on a belt, so OCC is getting through where it's not supposed to be. Could be that a system is clogged, could be that someone's not doing their job well enough. Instead of waiting for someone to raise their hand, which sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you've already contaminated 6 bales worth of material. The AI does it for you. So essentially, push notification or text message to a maintenance manager saying, "Hey, there's something. Looks like there's too much contamination on this belt. Let's go out and take a look." Again, we're seeing a significant positive impact from both the camera systems on tipping floors, on different parts of the MRF operation, and of course, the X-ray systems being added to the pre-sort line. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, one of the first applications was at the largest waste energy facility in North America. They have 16 receiving doors, so they do quite a bit of volume, as you can imagine. And they were concerned with non-conforming waste. So red bag waste, they were concerned about profile waste, so things that came in drums, bulky items like mattresses and tree trunks that weren't supposed to be in the waste. And of course, they get it all the time. They didn't want their operators to miss things, and have installed the AI machine learning camera systems to identify this. And again, it's you can see the pictures on the right, and it essentially annotates that there's a problem, notifies an operator, and the operator comes and picks that material, and then it can auto invoice the customer. Next slide, please. So here's just the summary of kind of the old way versus the Visia new way, and it's not. I've already kind of shared it. We're talking about taking manual processes and automating it. We're talking about reducing, mitigating downtime, and improving production. All things that are make secondary material recovery operations more efficient and better for our customers as well. Next slide, please. That is it. I think we do have about 11 minutes yet for questions. Thank you very much. Again, really appreciate the time, and this was a great opportunity.
Thank you so much, Jeff. That was fascinating. I hope you're all learning as much as I am today. I can see how this would really transform sorting operations. We do have quite a few questions. I don't think we'll get to them all, but Victoria, if you could please pick out a few representative ones. And while you're doing that, I'm going to wrap up just a bit. Some of you who joined us late may be wondering what became of Heidi and Jordan. They're tied up in a Senate environmental quality hearing today. And that's an important part of what NSAC does. Today, we're focused on connecting people about critical developments in the industry, and we will continue that. There is so much going on. We will be offering further webinars, and if you want to keep in touch with what's happening that's transforming the waste industry and moving the circular economy forward, please stay connected with NSAC. We are also very involved, as many of you know, in promoting legislation to further that agenda, which is what Heidi and Jordan are doing today. We do that across the country. So if that's something your organization could use assistance with, please reach out to us. And of course, we are again grateful for the support of all the organizations that have sponsored us and made today's event possible. If that's something that would interest you, please contact us about that as well. And I'll let Victoria go on with the questions.
Yeah, so the first one is for Judy with Digimarc. Does size impact the ability to detect material type, and can Digimarc be used for compostable products? So I will let Judy take this one.
Yeah, so the size of the product has to be big enough to contain a single watermark, and that could be about the size of a thumbnail. So we can get quite small. We have tested things like chapsticks. So just to give you an idea of how small it can get. Just keep in mind that when the product gets to the recycling facility, the machine just needs to detect a single watermark, but it could be pieces of a single watermark. So it doesn't have to be a whole, the entire stamp at the same time. So you could get, parts of it from different parts of the product. And yes, we could use it. We can apply them to compostable products. We can essentially anything that can be printed can have watermarks embedded, because we were just simply embedding the watermarks in the design itself. So it could be compostable packaging, non-compostable, any type of packaging where design is printed, or as I said before, plastics. We could also embed into plastic mold, and in some cases we could even laser etch onto like aluminum cans and other types of material.
Gosh, that is amazing, the work that you can do with that. And yes, Sonia and Carly, did you have any further questions on that? Does that answer your question? Okay, good to go. The next one is for Peter. From John, do life cycle assessments support the notion of aluminum being more sustainable over polypropylene for this application?
I think it depends on the aluminum, the product. Aluminum's been for decades and is, becoming the preferred packaging for more sustainable packaging alternatives. After plastic became really popular in the 70s, we're now seeing just the impact it's having on our environment, and why we're having calls like this today. our product specifically, we're still new to market, so we don't have years of data to look at in LCA. But again, we're focused more on the end result and the end impact, and that's just removing the plastic waste that's entering our environment, our landfills, waterways, and oceans. So hopefully that answers your question.
And then going off of that as well, I saw that Michelle also asked about expanding the statement on the slide, the 100% certified plastic caps, but she also asked, then do the aluminum bottles have a type of certification of recyclability?
Well, I think what we meant by that is, the waste management facilities are certified to recycle aluminum, and all aluminum, at least the ones that the majority of the waste management facilities that we've been in contact with, are certified to collect, recycle, and have a downstream supply chain for aluminum. So aluminum retrieval, and then that basically goes into the aluminum supply chain. So I would say the answer is yes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then for Jeff, with Visia, Susan asks, is there any concerns for employees' exposure to X-rays with the different types of systems that you use?
Understood. So the short answer is no. The X-rays are all off the shelf. We don't build the X-rays. They're all FDA approved and come with a couple options for screening. So the shrouds you saw in that picture of the X-ray, there's some metal that sticks outside of the X-ray that's prevent from any stray X-rays. Yep, you can see that there's about 3 feet of blue or 4 feet of blue on each side. The X-ray unit itself is actually only about 2 feet wide. And then there's also some lead curtain options as well. We do run testing on it to make sure there's no stray X-rays when it's functioning, and allow staff in some facilities where dosimeters to make sure they're not getting any stray X-rays. We've never had a single incident. Much like the TSA, you're standing next to those, the staff are there. There's no risk to the staff.
It's too, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Jeff. And Judy, Kareen asks, given that plastic cannot be recycled infinitely, how does Digimarc's technology contribute to a circular economy?
Yeah, that's actually, I was just starting to type my answer. So, I'm not a plastics expert, so I don't know how many cycles. I guess it depends on what type of plastic it is. It can be recycled, but if we can even get all plastics recycled once, even, right? That's a major improvement towards a circular economy than what we have today. And if we could do it more than once, great. But I think we need to get started somewhere. So the answer is I don't know how many times can we truly close a loop after multiple recycling of the same product. That's something I really don't have enough information to answer now. But if we could even get 100% recycled of once, a single lifetime of a plastics, then I think that's a huge step forward.
Absolutely. One of the pillars of the circular economy is keeping materials in motion. So absolutely. And then for Nicole, is there any plans to expand beyond college campuses?
Yes, so next year we're actually planning to start launching pilot programs with municipalities. So we are looking for any jurisdictions that are interested in piloting with us. But our overall goal is to be direct to consumer. So anyone can download the app anytime, anywhere, and get correct recycling and composting guidelines based on the location. So we are making our overall plan is to get there. So it'll be in the next couple of years, but yes.
Amazing. And I do want to just say thank you for everyone joining us today. And thank you to all of our speakers for putting on a fantastic presentation. It's always so great to learn about these emerging technologies and about everything that's happening that is advancing the equitable circular economy. So if anyone has any more questions, I know we're 2 minutes out, and I'm going to turn it back over to Tim, our wonderful facilitator.
Thank you, Victoria, and thank you for all your support today. We couldn't do this without you. I want to add my own thanks to our wonderful speakers today. It was exciting hearing what you're all doing. You know, for years, Heidi and Jordan and I have been speaking around the country and beyond about the potential of EPR and the promise of the circular economy and how it was going to address so many of our urgent problems. And it's so exciting to see that it's now finally happening. The revolution has arrived, and you are all part of it. If you want to keep in touch with all the exciting developments to come, please stay in touch with us here at the National Stewardship Action Council. Join us if you can. We'll be doing more events like this in the future, and we will keep you informed about all the critical developments to come. So thanks again to our sponsors. Thank you to everybody who joined us today. We know how busy you are, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
That's it.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Take care.
So wonderful to see so many familiar faces today.